I know people say about the mag genius, this and that. Personally, I think it's just a little act. But do you think he's so smart he just want to trick everybody?
Lee Perry is one of the smartest artists ever in the history of music business. Lee Perry come with a concept of a crazy man. He's smarter than me and you, and he made millions being crazy. So check that out. Which other man in the world peddle off of craziness and get rich off it? Lee Perry do that.
Hello everybody, you're welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. The rich history of reggae music has seen numerous colorful, bold and wacky characters make their mark on that genre. But as everyone knows, the craziest human being that we have witnessed in that space is none other than a super ape and upsetter himself in the great Lee Scratch Perry, the eccentric genius producer that is celebrated today for being one of the pillars of reggae, dub, dancehall and Jamaican music in general. There are countless stories of the naughty things he got up to, from the way he dressed, the things he said, and most certainly did, that made the whole world certain that this man was off his rocker, up until his passing in 2021. At least, that's what we all thought. Even on this channel, I refer to his crazy persona on several videos. But what if I told you that the said persona was nothing more than a genius creation and the pinnacle of his artistic brilliance? In the years since he's passed, the very people who worked the closest with him have all owned up to the fact that the whole thing was a big act. The music business, with all the trappings of success and incredible fame that our favorite artists often achieved, have in many examples proved to be a massive burden that many times destroys them from the inside out. But Perry, being a ridiculously intelligent person, would formulate the mad scientist persona as a masterstroke for the business and most importantly, a shield against the extremely dangerous position which he found himself in, and I'm very certain would have claimed his life if he hadn't. Just like rock star David Bowie invented Ziggy Stardust and funk superstar George Clinton had Dr. Funkenstein as alter egos, Lee Perry would invent his own. Let's take a look at how and most importantly why Lee Scratch Perry pretended to be a madman. In 1978, Perry's amazing studio, the Black Ark, was the hottest recording outfit in Jamaica and I dare say on the entire planet. He had established it 5 years earlier in 1973 after working for the likes of Coxsone Dodd at Studio One and Joe Gibbs for several years. His weird, unorthodox, super creative and truly sublime skills in music production had made the Black Ark Studios a mecca for both superstars and unknown artists. He not only crafted some of reggae's all-time masterpiece albums like Max Romeo's War in a Babylon, Party Time by the Heptones, and Super Ape by the Upsetters, he was the go-to guy for artists from around the world, with singers coming all the way from Africa, Europe, and America to get their own share of the magic of the Upsetter. The Black Ark was literally besieged by hundreds of local artists every day, all hustling for Perry to produce them. Interestingly, he was the only prominent producer in Jamaica that was a fierce advocate of Rastafari and was a patron of a group called the Nyabingi Theocracy, whose regular meetings he would host right there on his studio premises. This group would appoint him their minister of music, and their numbers exploded, as did the volume of Rastafarians that thronged the Black Ark on a daily basis. Putting it mildly, Perry had his hands full with the endless stream of production jobs and found himself binging on alcohol and herb, barely sleeping for weeks at a time just to meet deadlines. Like most highly artistic people, his ways came across as eccentric, and has since the beginning of the 70s had noticed it intrigued and entertained everyone. But circumstances would soon see him take it several notches higher. Being a superstar producer, he was the focal point of a literal army of hustlers, opportunists, and freeloaders on his neck every day, looking for a way into his pockets. As if all this wasn't enough pressure on him financially speaking, during a period that was a very dangerous time in Jamaica, he was then being extorted by one of Kingston's most powerful street gangs in the Spanglers that sent henchmen around to the studio to extort protection money out of him every day. He was caught in a web that was tightening around him very fast. And this is the period when music historians all believe that he snapped and lost his mind. But with what we know now, it was that period that he would birth the strategy that he was certain was foolproof and would make the world leave him alone. He began to act like he had lost his mind. When artists would come to the studio to work on existing projects or ask for new collaborations, he would switch mid-conversation and start babbling about abstract stuff like the wind or how there were invisible vampires flying around the studio, he would, in the middle of session work, abandon artists and spend hours drawing graffiti all over the studio walls, and would do weird stuff like burying tapes in the soil to make the music resonate with nature and stuff like that. When cameras were on him or he was granting an interview, he would unleash the mad scientist persona and put on a crazy show. But anytime he was with trusted associates like Max Romeo, fellow producer Nini the Observer, or David Rodigan, he was as lucid and sane as the best of us. As Max Romeo revealed, he would switch back into character when people came around or the cameras and microphones were on. These gimmicks all caused rumors to spread like wildfire that Perry had lost his mind. Though he was putting on a show that was working big time, a real sad event at home actually caused him to snap for real. Through all the chaos, his wife Pauline would start an affair with Danny Clark, a member of the Meditations, a trio that Perry had been producing at Black Ark. This reportedly hit him very hard and left him stunned. And around that same time, he'd also had enough of the Rasta brethren and began to formulate inventive ways of driving them away, like tying pieces of pork to his car and drawing offensive graffiti of Haile Selassie. And ultimately, the Rastas left his studio. But what seemed to be the biggest albatross still loomed over him in the form of numerous exploitative contractual obligations to international labels like Trojan and Island Records, plus a backlog of unfinished projects that he had been forced to work on in the first place. His tactics had been very effective, as by then the studio had gone silent, as everyone stayed away out of fear. But to break free of his contracts, he would have to truly prove to the world that he was insane. So in January 1979, he devised the ultimate plan when he took a can of petrol and some matches and used it to burn the Black Ark studios to the ground before leaving Jamaica and hopped between the US and the UK for a few years before returning in the mid-1980s. He kept a low profile, and all thanks to his reputation, no one dared to approach his gates for anything, as the whole country was terrified of Perry. He didn't have a studio of his own, but was putting out music of his own and releasing it mostly abroad, and had begun to work with UK-aged reggae producer Matt Professor. In 1989, while chilling at home one day, a fan of his named Mireille Roug, a millionaire Swiss businesswoman, sought him out at his home behind the ruins of what used to be the Black Ark. The pair started a relationship and the couple moved back to Switzerland and got married 2 years later. She became his manager as he relaunched himself and built a new studio that he named the Blue Ark, and he enjoyed a super successful second phase of his career, during which time he unleashed 21 albums and bagged a Grammy Award without any scandals or viral controversy making the news until he passed away in 2021. In a very interesting interview that he granted to Dazed magazine in 2008, he gave an insight into the truth behind his persona. When he was asked about what it was like operating in Jamaica in the volatile 1970s, he said, "If you're too soft in Jamaica, you're going to be in bad trouble. You need to be crazy to survive." In the next question, the interviewer had to ask him in very clear terms, "You don't seem mad to me. Why do people call you crazy?" The man would live out the rest of his life with his wife and their 2 kids in their mansion in Zurich, doing his best to wield the crazy persona that he had crafted as the main selling point of his amazing career, and to a large extent, he pulled it off. To be frank, he may have been eccentric like most super artists are, but as many people in his trusted circles have proved beyond doubt, the Scratch Perry was no madman. So there you have it. Thank you for watching this video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, Jah bless.